So I saw one of your recent episodes that someone had filed a bar complaint and had success, which actually really surprised me because I've had no success. Like, I filed bar complaints against 3 different people, and because of the nature of the matter, they were squashed. Like, they wouldn't.
Interesting.
They just swept them under the rug. So the first one I was against. So the Franchise Tax Board, when you start down the road of appealing a penalty, you start with the administrative court, right? Like, that's how the government system works, right? You go to an administrative court, and if the administrative court denies it, then you appeal to Superior Court. So the administrative court, the Franchise Tax Board offers a free attorney who works for the Franchise Tax Board and is fighting against the Franchise Tax Board in this OTA court, right? And so the attorney fired me because I kept insisting that we address the accounting fraud in my case. And so I filed a complaint against him with a bar for firing me, basically to hide his boss's accounting fraud, right?
Right. To do his job, what he was hired to do, but then it's like, so you're hiding stuff and you can't even do what you're supposed to do for me.
Right. So they canceled, so they turned that down.
Did they give a reason why?
They said that attorneys can do any arguments they want and that it's not at all suspicious that he wouldn't address the accounting fraud. Like, if he didn't want to address it, then he didn't need to address it.
Does he not work for you? I mean, but go ahead. Yeah. I mean, at that point, he'd be working for you.
But he's still employed by the Franchise Tax Board.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, who are you? You're showing who your true colors, but it's like, how can you say that when he's supposed to be representing me and I'm asking them not to do that? Mm-hmm. Like, it's not just some attorney that's like a prosecutor. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what's so like bizarre, but they just set up all this stuff so that it's like, well, there's nothing you can do. And I filed a complaint with an attorney in South Carolina and they were investigating it. So, I think it just depends on what it's about, who you're, because even the people that would need to file that probably have something where they don't want that to be exposed because it's an intertwined web. They're all connected. And so they all will have each other's backs, and be like, oh, we can't allow that to take place because that's going to take down a whole lot of stuff that we need to be in place,
Right. So the second one I filed was against the attorney who represented Franchise Tax Board in the OTA case. His name was Eric Yadao. And he improperly redacted documents to hide the accounting fraud. And he improperly redacted documents to hide that FTB was harassing me for money that wasn't owed. So, like, he redacted all the calls, the vast majority of the calls and letters that I'd sent. He omitted a lot of documents. So I filed a case against him, same thing, like he's trying to hide his employer's accounting fraud. And they said, well, Mr. Yadao says that he needed to redact the documents for your privacy. So that's the end of that.
Oh my gosh. It's so stupid.
So you appeal those to the California Supreme Court. So I filed an appeal with the California Supreme Court and they refused to take it and they wouldn't say why. So, like, there's an explanation box for their reason for rejection. There was nothing in the explanation box. So that was an obvious cover-up, right? Like, if they were trying to cover it up, they would have given a reason, but with no reason.
Right.
So then I filed a complaint against Deputy Attorney General Anna Barsegyan for, harassing me, posting my social security number online, lying to a judge, like full-on lying to a judge. I mean, she did so much unlawful stuff in that case. Like, she absolutely should lose her bar license. And the Bar Association wouldn't open a complaint against her. And I got really pushy and threatening. And they finally opened it and then immediately closed it, saying that because there was a judge on the case, they were absolved of their responsibility to investigate her. Have you ever heard of such nonsense?
I mean, I feel like all the time these days, but for real. I mean, it's BS. It's like, what? I don't understand how they can say it and just believe it. They're like, yeah, that's just the way it is. You're like,
they don't
right, that makes sense to you?
You believe it.
Yes, I guess. I mean, they act like they believe it the way that they say it. You know what I mean? Just tell them that. they'll just let it go. I mean, because I'm sure that, think about how many people they'll have, and they just believe whatever, well, all right. And they just keep going. And it's like, no, we have to keep, because it's the pressure that makes them react, right? It's like that guy resigning or whatever. I mean, when you bring this and expose these things, they have no choice. And it may not be the outcome that you necessarily want, but it's putting pressure on them to act foolishly even more, you know? Mm-hmm. And it exposes them even more. That's why it's so great, because they start doing things. Oh, God, to cover this up. Oh, my gosh, they're seeing it. Oh, my gosh, you know?
Yep. And honestly, like, the more desperate they are to cover it up, the more mistakes they make, and like, yes, the easier it is, the more obvious it is.
Oh yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. And it's hilarious.
So I went through the appeal, like the first stage of the appeal process with her, Anna Barsegyan, and that takes 8 months. So, you know, I know at the end of the 8 months, I'll get a letter saying she did nothing wrong, and then I'll have to appeal to the California Supreme Court again. Right. But, you know, again, it's more layers of proof.
Yes.
So,